Okay, so we looked at this material on NBA what ifs. These really cool explorations of key moments from the last, 25 years? And how things could have gone totally differently.
Yeah, it really digs into how fragile history is, especially in sports. The research is impressive, definitely sparks debate.
Absolutely. The imagination, the depth, it's a great starting point.
For sure. I was thinking, though, is there a way to maybe link these stories together even more? Make the whole thing feel bigger than just the individual parts?
That's a really interesting thought. Yeah, maybe grouping them? Like instead of just one after another, find the common threads.
Exactly. To maximize the impact and maybe reveal some deeper patterns, consider grouping related what-if scenarios thematically.
Right, because right now, while each one is, super detailed and engaging on its own,
Uh-huh.
it kind of treats each what if as this isolated thing, almost like a list.
And you lose the connections, right? The way things cascade in NBA history. You miss the bigger forces, the themes that keep popping up.
So the weakness is the individual stories are strong, but the structure kind of hides those deeper links.
Makes sense.
The suggestion then is maybe reorganize them, put them into these overarching themes, these categories that share similar triggers or outcomes.
Okay.
That way it goes from just cool anecdotes to more of like a historical tapestry. Shows how these different moments are actually connected.
A tapestry. I like that. So what would those themes look like? Give me an example.
Well, you could have one called, say, the LeBron Echoes.
Okay.
And in there, you'd put stuff like, what if LeBron stayed in Cleveland back in 2010?
Right.
And what if Ray Allen missed that shot?
Oh, yeah, the corner three.
Exactly. And maybe, what if Draymond doesn't get suspended in 16?
Gotcha.
Putting those together lets you really discuss how those specific moments shaped LeBron's whole legacy, his career path, how super teams formed, what happened to his rivals. You see the ripples across different seasons.
Yeah, that definitely makes the connections feel stronger. You see the patterns.
Precisely. Or how about something like drafting dynasties and disasters?
Okay, I can see where this is going.
You'd group, what if the Wolves took Steph Curry,
A classic.
right? And what if the Bucks picked Curry over Monte Ellis, alongside maybe, what if the Suns drafted Luka?
Oh, yeah.
So that section explores how these huge draft decisions, or, the lack of them, totally changed where franchises went, how legends emerged. It really hits on foresight versus, messing up in team building.
Shows how one pick echoes for years. What about injuries? That feels like a big theme, too.
Perfect segue. Yeah, you could call it the cruel hand of fate.
Love it.
That's where you put what if D. Rose didn't tear his ACL?
Man.
And what if Brandon Roy or Greg Oden stayed healthy?
Portland fans, look away.
Right? And maybe even a more recent one like what if Halliburton didn't get hurt? This theme really drives home how much player health, those devastating injuries, shapes careers and honestly, championship windows for whole teams. Adds that human element.
Those groupings definitely make you think more about the why behind it all, not just the what.
Exactly. And, building on that thinking about the why, we also thought about connecting these moments to the bigger shifts in the NBA itself. Strategy, culture, that sort of thing.
Ah, okay. So going beyond just the teams and players involved in that specific what if.
Yeah. Beyond the direct results, the material could really deepen its so what factor by linking these hypotheticals to how NBA strategy evolved, how teams build rosters now, even how player influence has changed.
Because right now the focus is mostly on who won or lost in that alternate timeline.
Pretty much. It touches on broader stuff sometimes, like player empowerment, but it often feels separate, like an aside.
Right.
And that limits exploring how these big moments actually shape the game itself, the culture, the strategy.
It's like you're missing the forest for the trees. Okay, so what's the suggestion?
The idea is to weave in more of that meta-commentary throughout. Use these what-ifs as case studies.
Okay.
To show how these critical moments push the league in certain directions, roster building, coaching styles, the whole player management power dynamic. It adds another layer, makes it more thought-provoking.
Okay, give me an example of that. How would that work?
Well, take player empowerment. When you discuss what if the Chris Paul to Lakers trade wasn't vetoed?
Still hurts Laker fans.
Right? Or what if Kawhi missed that shot against Philly? You could explicitly connect those to the rise of player power.
How so?
You could say something like, look, this wasn't just about team changes. It showed stars starting to dictate where they wanted to go. A trend LeBron kicked off, sure, but you see it here with Paul's move and later with Kawhi choosing to team up with PG. It shows these aren't isolated incidents, they're part of a bigger shift.
Gotcha. Connecting the micro event to the macro trend, that definitely adds depth. You're explaining why it matters beyond just that one team.
Exactly. Or look at tactical changes, like in what if the Warriors didn't fire Mark Jackson?
Mm.
Or what if the process actually worked out perfectly? You can use those to talk about how the game itself evolved.
Okay.
For Jackson, you could detail how his more traditional iso-hemi style might have, held back that dynasty, contrasted directly with Steve Kerr coming in and unleashing the whole pace and space thing. It shows the league shifting towards ball movement, threes.
Right, using it as a clear inflection point example.
Yeah. And for the process, you dig into that whole high-risk tanking strategy. Why did teams start doing that? What were the philosophies behind it?
And it highlights how strategy and personnel are so linked.
Totally. And one more angle here, franchise and city dynamics.
Ah, the Sonics.
Exactly. What if the Sonics stayed in Seattle? That's perfect for talking about the business side, the economics, the ownership stuff that drives relocations.
Yeah, it's not always about winning on the court.
Right. Go beyond just Seattle's loss and use it to show how business factors can just override success, how team-city relationships get scarred. It's the business of basketball.
Those definitely bring out the deeper layers. But sometimes mapping out all those layers, it can get complicated, right? Following all the dominoes?
Oh, absolutely. Which actually brings us to our last main point, refining the scope and pacing, especially for the really complex what-ifs.
Okay.
Yeah, to keep people engaged and make sure it's clear, maybe think about calibrating the depth. How far out do you trace the ripples? Focus on the most compelling, most immediate effects first.
I think the weakness here is that some scenarios, they're incredibly researched, but they project outcomes like 5-10 years down the line,
Yeah,
with tons of player moves, team changes, even like future draft picks changing.
right, like that one LeBron path where he goes from Cleveland to Houston, then the Lakers.
Exactly. It's impressive, but it can kind of dilute the initial what if, and honestly, it's a lot to follow. You get lost in all the speculation.
That's a really good point for keeping the narrative punchy. So the suggestion is, for those super complex ones, maybe condense the long-term stuff.
How so?
Either just highlight the biggest immediate shifts, or maybe break it down. Like, here are the primary effects, secondary, and maybe focus on the first two.
Okay, focus the impact.
Or, for scenarios where there isn't one clear path, maybe offer like 2 or 3 different brief possibilities. That invites the listener to speculate more instead of giving one super long, definitive alternate history.
I like that. Keeps the reader involved. What would that look like in practice?
Okay, take what if LeBron stayed in Cleveland in 2010 instead of this huge saga covering his whole hypothetical career?
Right.
Focus mainly on the immediate stuff. The Bulls probably form with Wade and Bosh. They likely dominate the East. LeBron's Cavs struggle without a real co-star.
Uh-huh.
Then you could just end by posing the question, what happens then to a ringless LeBron at age 29, rather than spelling out every single move he might make afterwards? Keeps it sharp.
Much more digestible. Hits harder right away.
Exactly. Or what if Kevin Durant's foot was smaller against the Bucks?
The toe on the line.
Yeah. So the immediate result is huge. Nets likely win the 2021 title. That's impactful. But then the Nets imploding later, the Mavs-Suns trades, that gets really tangled.
Very.
So the suggestion, focus hard on that 21 title win. What does it mean for KD, Kyrie, Harden's legacies? Then maybe just briefly touch on how a winning, maybe healthier Nets team changes future trade demands. Don't detail every single subsequent move. Maximize that initial championship what-if.
Got it. Focus the blast radius. And what about something really broad, like what if COVID never happened?
Yeah, that one's inherently wild, right? So many variables, player injuries, the bubble, everything.
Totally unpredictable.
So for that, maybe frame it less around predicting specific champions for years on end, because that's pure speculation.
Right.
Instead, focus on the types of changes. How might individual awards have shifted? Different playoff narratives, maybe long-term player health because the schedule wasn't so compressed. Focus on those categories of impact. It acknowledges you can't map it all out perfectly.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about managing the scope of the speculation.
Exactly. So look, the material is already really strong. Super thought-provoking, engaging stuff.
Definitely.
To recap, we talked about enhancing the narrative by grouping things thematically.
Like the LeBron echoes or drafting disasters.
Right. Then integrating those broader NBA shifts, the strategy, the culture.
Connecting the dots to things like player empowerment or tactical changes.
Yeah. And finally, just refining the scope and pacing on those really complex timelines, keeping the focus sharp.
That all makes sense. These feel like real opportunities to go even deeper with the analysis, build on what's already a really imaginative foundation.
We definitely think so. Implementing these suggestions could make the work even more compelling. So we encourage you, take these ideas, play around with them, apply them to your material, and absolutely submit it back to us. We'd love to see what you create next.